Joining me today, we're going to be talking about Motors versus Jones and also Emerson Bar Reviews, Day 1, Hour 2. But I'm going to give you a created different response, which I created writing a model answer that I have now. There are other issues in the fact pattern that could be pulled out, but I'm giving my honest opinion. So typically when you're doing a essay, you want to not put in laws that don't apply. So first of all, with this video, this is the one that he did. He went over the six areas that he covered before, the way he breaks it apart on contracts, right? And I said not everybody breaks it apart that way, but this really works well for him. He's actually a mathematician as well as a JD, so anyway, while he's discussing this, he adds on another one to look for, which is a common law one, Stan-Barb-Tom. I found this one, Owens versus Carter. So I'm going to read that off afterwards, and it's a common law one. This one that we are going to go over right now is the Motors versus Jones. I will plug in the fact pattern video that I read off yesterday, and I actually need to trim that because the tail end of it, there was some feedback. Okay, so now I looked at some references before I did this, and I took my time looking at it and doing it. And I went through this Gilbert's and also this book that I happen to have on UCC. Now, if you are a first-year student and you're taking the California Baby Bar, you probably are responsible for knowing this, even though you haven't taken it. But you don't have to have the rules memorized completely. You just have to know have a pretty good idea of this. So let's say you get one of these fact patterns, which are UCC, heavily UCC, and they might show up on the multiple choice too. It's going to be kind of difficult. So it's a good idea to get your hands on something UCC and kind of look through it. If you are a regular bar taker, I would just review it and try to memorize as much as you can. So some of the issues that Emerson talks about are 2201 and 22012. And then if they're between meat merchants, and so on and so forth. So in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is show you what I snipped, and you can pause it and read it off if you want. But I'm just going to, Emerson covers this briefly, and he mentions it, so that really helped me. But I went and looked in the book that I have on the UCC and found some other things because it had an index in the back, and there was a modification in the agreement in this Motors versus Jones. So I looked up the law and snipped this for you, but it actually has it in the book, so I didn't need to do this, but I'm doing it for you. If you want to pause it and read it, you can. Also, the links to this are really easy to find. You can just Google this and go to their webpage. This is from the Cornell Law Legal Institute. And the other one that I found was the anticipatory repudiation under UCC, which is 2610. I did not hear Emerson say that at all. And he also talked about what you do if there is a breach and what the remedies are on these sections. So when I had a little bit of time, I kind of went through this. And the way that I normally like to do mine is I put, who the suing parties are, right off the bat. And then what I like to do is cut and paste um, the calls of the questions. So what I did is I started with an outline and I put the main question at the top, which is asking about damages, if any, that motor can get. Okay? And so I put this, I just cut and pasted this. I did add a sick on it, which means it's grammatically or something incorrect. Now, I also, before I put all this other stuff in, this is what I put in. I put the call, the question. So this is, there were 4 counts, or is it 3? 3 counts, yes. Okay, so what Motors was asking for is $15,000 damages, the difference between the price he paid and the original price. And I put a sort of conclusory answer, but I'm kind of running out of time. But what you do is you put in an answer and you say why. I probably should have said discussed above, supra. And, and then count 2. So I'm jumping down to the answer if you want to look what I said. But I can also show you what I put in between, because they like you to break it apart. And it says here the fact pattern indicated Jones had no reason to know about the liquidated damages clause. This payment may be arguable. However, Jones may reasonably believe that it takes a few months to procure an order so large, and that the order was made in January for March. Therefore, setting the business back for 2 months is not without costs. Thus, a jury might decide based on this fact. So basically, I really think, looking at the UCC and the remedies, which I put at the end, but one of the things that you want to do is break it apart and start at the top. Do they have a contract? Is this for a real contract? Is this other person obligated under UCC? So first thing is it's a contract for sale of movable goods, and it's governed by UCC. I kind of broke this apart and I wrote a little detail analysis, and then I said these facts show that forming this contract, which is governed by, thus UCC governs this contract. Formation process discussed below. But first I identified them as merchants. Now, to me, one could infer that they're merchants, but I think that Emerson said he wasn't sure if they were merchants. However, I just put their merchants, and that you could infer that they were, and why. Then I put a contract under UCC 2204 that it requires offer, acceptance, consideration, and no defenses. Now, I should have put effective defenses, because that's what Emerson said. Okay, so under UCC, when the parties are merchants in certain situations exists, so I did mention these other things, but I didn't quite break it apart. It says the contract was formed and discussed above more broadly and detailed below. Offer under UCC is under 2206, and it says a valid offer exists when both intent and definiteness exist. And then I put above, initially a firm offer was made between Jones, the seller, and Motors, the buyer. Therefore, the initial agreement contained a valid offer, acceptance. And then I go into the, acceptance is a willingness to enter into a contract with unequivocal mutual assent as terms. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I got other stuff to do, but, you can write your own definition up here. This is kind of what I said off the top of my head. You might be able to condense that. Now, both parties agreed on January 15th for Jones to send specific bolts in a large quantity. I didn't even write how much it was. On a certain date discussed above, the acceptance was memorialized. Consideration is the bargain for exchange, the legal detriment or benefit to one of the parties. Now, these definitions don't have to be perfect, and you need a 70 or better usually. If you want to be totally perfect, then go ahead and look at your outlines, write the perfect definition if you want. But when you're on the fly and you're sitting there doing the fact pattern, you might not be able to look everything up. And that's why it's good to kind of memorize what the general idea is. You don't necessarily have to know it's UCC 22012, that the modification, just, the statute of frauds. But anyway, so this is how I broke it apart, and it's a good idea to just look at old bar exam questions and answers and review the black letter law and memorize some of the definitions or the what do you call it? Yeah, what does each of these things mean? So a firm offer is that there's assurance that the contract for sale exists and it's irrevocable. So initially the contract was a firm offer, which makes it irrevocable. However, see, I'm getting kind of tired here, but basically the initial agreement was a firm offer. I actually cut and paste. I kind of got ahead of myself, and then I kind of cut and pasted some of this in here. But you get the idea that when you're writing answering a question, there's going to be a variety of different ways different lawyers will answer it. And there's specific rules you're looking for depending on the type of law. Now, if you start talking about common law, why would you waste your time talking about the Q-tips of common law if it's ruled by UCC? Well, there's a lot of overlap in the law, that's for sure. And but the law allows merchants more flexibility, and you can see it when you're looking at UCC. It says that here a change in the contract can be made without putting it in writing among merchants under UCC 2201. So basically, they don't have to draw up a whole new contract. They can email each other back and forth and say, hey, I need to change the price went up. I can't really do that other price. And then, and that's exactly what happened. And the silence of Motors was accepting the new terms. But then on March 1st, the due date for the delivery to come, what happens? I'm just going to skip over this writing. You can just pause it and look at it. Well, under 22610, you can see repudiation and something else. I forget what. But it's in the book that I referenced at the beginning. So anticipatory repudiation of a contract is when a party repudiates the contract before the contract becomes due. This relieves the non-repudiating party of their obligation. However, let's see here on March 1st, the first day of delivery was due. Jones, under a pre-existing duty, told Motors he found another buyer that would pay him more, over $1 per pound, which Jones was paying under $1 per pound under their agreement. This other manufacturer had purchased all of Jones's inventory, where Jones informed it would be impossible for him to deliver the goods at the agreed time and location. Now, normally there's inferences or implied when you're doing UCC or merchants, there are implications or assumptions that are just assumed. And so it doesn't need to be as specific as, say, like at common law. Like common law, you might need to spell stuff out more. So, it's business people, you have to show intent, good faith. So basically, Jones repudiated the contract. So this is a material breach. Now, you've got your minor breach and your material breach. I'm not even going into minor. I'm not even really discussing it that much. I've got, 20 minutes I spent outlining and trying to figure stuff out, and then I'm going to spend 40 minutes writing the thing. You got to decide what you want to put in and what you want to pull out. You'll get points for the stuff they're looking for, and if you're putting stuff in they're not looking for, you're not going to really get points, but you're not going to get punished. Okay, so that's the way I understand the grading rubric. A breach in a contract is a breach of a pre-existing duty. This is a failure to fulfill the terms of the contract as agreed upon. In a material breach, it is significant. Now, I didn't look up the exact rule or the definitions. I just did it from memory. It might be a little off. This is what I wrote. In this case, Jones anticipatorily repudiated the entire contract in order to increase profits. Now, I assumed that. He didn't say that, but I'm assuming it. This is a material breach. Not only did Jones say he would not deliver, he told Motors his entire inventory was now sold out. So, and then you've got the Hadley versus Baxendale. This is the seminal case where damages were discussed in the court about how it defined damages better. And, this person needed a repair made, and it was delayed, and he lost business, and he wanted all these damages, and it wasn't foreseeable. And then the judge is like, no, wait a minute here, we have to define this better. So they required mitigation, and they required it to be reasonable and foreseeable in Headley versus Baxendale. So Jones had reason to know that Motors needed the bolts for his business by March 1st and waited till the due date to repudiate the contract. Thus, Jones may reasonably foresee that repudiation may cause a hardship on Motors' business. Now here's the mitigation of damages part. Motors tried to find another seller and was able to find one that offered a higher price at $1 per pound, but could not deliver until May 1st, setting Motors back 2 months. Therefore, Motors may be awarded damages because he made a good faith effort to mitigate the damages. There probably should be like a space, like you have issue rule. Here's the analysis and the conclusion. So listen, when you're IRACing cases, sometimes you can pass and leave certain stuff out. You need to get, I've never really gotten 100 on an essay, maybe 75, just passing or better than passing 85, but I'm just letting you know. Okay, remedies under 2.7.11. I just wrote this in here because this is the law that I looked up. Now, Emerson didn't talk about this, and you probably don't need to know it, but it actually tells which remedies you can get. So if you want to look that up, you can. I didn't, snip it or anything like that. But I did put in the conclusion or the answers, and I'm basing it on these parts of remedies under UCC. So now when you're in a 1L, and if you're taking the baby bar, you didn't have a remedies class yet. You didn't have UCC yet. Yet it seems like all these questions are asking you about remedies. Now, when you do read the cases, they do talk about the remedies. When you do read the horn books and, you do your work, they talk about that. So what can get you to pass 1L might not get you to pass these questions unless you do some extra studying and reviewing on your own. You have to take initiative. So, okay, let's go on to, I'm going to scroll down to the next question. Okay, so he had another question, and maybe I should just do this one in another video. So this is a common law question, and I found it, and it's a homeowner that was approached by a contractor. It's a service contract, and it's about a 2-car garage. Talks about the dimensions and the dates. Now, with contracts, dates and timelines are really important, and they're kind of hard because you have to go through all the details, try to keep it in order, and apply the law. Now, this is going to be common law, but if you see the amount, this needs to be in writing. Remember the statute of frauds, and it's common law, so they're not as flexible about that. I tell you what, I'll do this next time because it's getting late. I will put the link to the actual fact pattern of Jones underneath, which we read off last night, and then the link to the video that shows how Emerson feels that it's best to answer the Motors versus Jones, okay? I'm going to look around for these other ones. I'll spend as much time as I can. I did notice more people come on right before the regular bar and the baby bar. So basically, I'll be doing more videos on bar stuff during like the months preceding. But in between, I'm just going to do other stuff. All right, well, thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.